Thank you very much. I have to say this is an unusual opportunity for me because I have been doing the Emunah seminar. No, I don't care. I get paid the same. I've been doing the Emunah seminar now for many, many years. And I usually have the closing slot just before the kumsitz at the end because, frankly, nobody can really speak after me. And I appreciate that, because I'm just that good. But anyway, so this is a little change of pace because I have a shir in the evening tonight. When they scheduled this, they didn't take that into account. So I'm doing an afternoon slot, which is a little different for me. And they decided they want to up the game. Look, you do, no matter how good you are, and you do the same thing over and over and over again, I have to say, this has always been one of the most amazing things to me about Broadway actors who have to do a play for like 8 years, 8 shows a week, and they have to do the same exact songs and deliver the same exact lines over and over again. It's absolutely amazing, which, by the way, is a tremendous level of gevura. Rabbi Orlofsky says he met this fellow who was a Kriya Rebbe. He's for years and years, Kametz Aleph Or, Kametz Beis Bor, Kametz Gimel Go. For this, over and over again, for 40 years. And he said to him, how do you not get burnt out? And he says, because every person that I'm talking to, I'm teaching him how to read. And that's a gift that I'm giving over. It doesn't matter how many times I've done it. Rabbi Veffer, when I was teaching in Discovery, he was doing the codes. And I sat through his class like 3 or 4 times. And I said the same thing. I said, you do the same exact class over and over again. He says, yeah. He says, because I get to focus on the people and their reaction, which is what I found interesting. So over the years, I've been doing, I used to do the same class, then they wanted to mix it up a little bit, so I would do 1 or 2 classes, then we moved it up to 3 classes, then we varied to 4 classes, and we'd keep coming back to the same ones. So they say, listen, we want you to take one of the classes you've done in the past and move it up to a different level. So, okay, I wouldn't do this anywhere other than, obviously, the TIV, because we're dealing with the guys who are on the top level over here. And I'm not saying that to be nice, because anyone who knows me knows that I'm not, but I'm saying that because when I spend a lot of time, developing the basic points so that people will keep up. Lahavdil, I had the schus of going to shiurim by Rabbi Moshe Shapiro, and the only shiur that was open to the public was Thursday night, and he would go very slow, and he'd build up every point. When I went to the Tuesday shiur, he moved much faster. But, you want to make sure and develop it. So if you're dealing with really smart, intelligent people, then you can move the things along a little faster. So that's what I'm going to do. So you'll forgive me if I cut out part of my standard presentation in favor of the new areas that the Hanhala would like me to include, and of course it's my pleasure, right? So, okay, let's get going. I used to teach in Discovery, and we would talk about trying to prove God's existence, and I would every now and then have somebody would say to me, I wouldn't mind being a observant Jew, as long as I didn't have to keep all these laws. Now, I thought that's an absolutely brilliant observation, because people need a tremendous amount of evidence. How do I know Judaism is true? But let's say I told you Judaism teaches that you have to go to town every night and get drunk and pick up girls. Everybody would be ultra-Orthodox, you understand? It wouldn't be a problem. The problem is, I was on a plane once, and this woman says to me, the Jews are the chosen people. And I said, yeah, I know that, She goes, God gave you the Bible on Mount Sinai. I said, yeah, that's right. She goes, every Christian believes that. And I said, okay. She goes, how come you Jews don't believe it? Most of the Jews I meet don't believe that God gave them the Torah. I said, because if you believe it, you can do whatever you want. If we believe it, we can't eat pig, we can't have to keep Shabbos, we have to do this, all the laws. You can believe it because it doesn't make a difference to you. And that's why when there's the mitzvahs that go into it, it becomes much more difficult. Okay, so I had these 2 kids at my house from a Reform high school in Israel who told me something that I later saw a Reformed rabbi write an article about in the Jewish Week, and someone told me it's on the Reformed website. Now, it's very hard to say Reformed theology because part of Reform is there is no theology. Everyone makes it up as you go along. That's why one Reformed rabbi said it's much harder to be a Reformed Jew than an Orthodox Jew, because an Orthodox Jew, everything's spelled out for you. In Reform, we just have to make it up as we go along. I said, yeah, I feel terrible for you guys. But anyway, so this is what they said. Listen, it's absolutely brilliant. He goes, we don't look at them as the 10 commandments. We look at them as the 10 suggestions. Maybe don't kill. Try not to steal. See if you can stay away from my wife. You understand? Suggestions. Ideas for living, you know? Now, I was taken aback the first time I heard this, but when I thought about it, it makes sense to me. Because I remember when I was a kid in the Hebrew Academy of Nassau County. Thank you very much. I have to tell you that I had a brother who was a genius, and they told him in public school they have to send him to a private school. So my father sent him to Hank and Rabbi Findel, so sei gesund und stark, he should stay well. Yeah, convinced him to send the other boys, you know, and as a result of that, one by one, the whole family became frum. My parents became frum. My parents, I just had the yahrzeit for both my parents about a week ago, and they leave behind 101 great-grandchildren, all being brought up in Torah and mitzvahs. It's an unbelievable thing, and that's in the schus of Rabbi Findel and Hank, so I definitely have hakaras hatov. But we were doing Kedushin, and everybody knows it's Gemara and Kedushin. Is who gets more schar for doing a mitzvah, a Jew or a non-Jew? So when I heard that the first time, of course, I said a non-Jew, because it's extra credit. Now, by the way, that's what Rabbi Yosef says in the Gemara. Rabbi Yosef says, if anybody will tell me that a blind person is patur from the mitzvahs, I'll make a big party because I'm blind and I'd get extra credit. And then when he heard no, this is what the Gemara says, Gadu mitzvah mishayenu mitzvah. It's greater if you are commanded. He says, I'll make a big suda if anyone tells me that a blind person is chayav mitzvahs. So I was surprised. Why should you get more reward if you're commanded? You have to do it. And it's a simple reason. It's psychological. You know this yourself, right? Your room is a mess, even according to your remarkably low standards. And your mother comes in, right? Now, you had woken up about 5 minutes beforehand. You look around at the room. It's an absolute scene of devastation. Even, like I say, even for you. And you say, okay, I'm cleaning this up. Any piece of oxes more than a week old, throwing them out. You understand? Any laundry that stands on its own, taking it out. You know? I'm going to bring in a lawnmower, see what I can do with the carpet. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm determined. And you're lying in bed and you're picturing this. And then your mother comes in and says, this place is a pigsty, clean it up. Now I don't want to. But you wanted to before. That's before you told me I have to. And once you tell me I have to, I don't want to. It's simple psychology. Yeah? And that's why everyone knows this. There are people who never eat breakfast. Their mother have shed tears over the years. Have a cup of coffee, have a piece of cake, have a bowl of cereal. Nothing. They don't eat breakfast. There are people who forget to eat lunch. I have met people like this. I admire them from a distance. I can't relate to it, but I do admire it, you know? There are people who they just don't eat. These same people on a tinus at 9 o'clock in the morning are pacing up and down. I'm never going to make it. How am I going to get through? I haven't eaten anything today. What time is it? 9:01. Oh my gosh, how am I going to get through? You never eat. But I always could. And once you tell me I can't, I'm starving. It's psychology. So I understand why the Reform called it suggestions. We're not going to say it's commandments, because once I command you, psychologically, you don't want to do it. And yet we old-fashioned Jews still call them commandments. Why? I was talking to a group from Los Angeles, not a particularly observant group, pretty secular. And I asked him this question. So one guy says, well, since it's harder, you get more reward for it. I said, oh, you thought Judaism was too easy. You know, 613 laws, a piece of cake. Let's add a psychological component that makes me not want to do it. So then it's better. I said, is that what you're saying? He's like, I said, let me ask you a better question. Are you saying that because that's what you really believe, or that's what you think the rabbi wants to hear? He says, oh, for sure, it's what the rabbi wants to hear. I said, don't do me any favors. Judaism, Reb Noach Weinberg always used to say that, and it's very true. We Jews have been called communists, we've been called capitalists, we kill Goyish babies for their blood. Someone said that to me, I can't even believe it. Someone said to me once. I said, no, we don't do that anymore. At the last meeting of the Elders of Zion, we outlawed it. We don't do that anymore. We kill Jews. We capture the host and torture it, because they believe that the little wafer over there in the communion turns into the flesh of Christ. And we have had Jews killed for cookie torture. I mean, it's like nothing they won't accuse us of. The only one thing they never accused of us, and that's being stupid. No one tells stupid Jew jokes, you know what I mean? So we're not stupid. So if we're calling the mitzvahs, and this is very important, it's something better about the fact that we're commanded to do it than that we're not commanded to do it. What is the reason that it's a mitzvah, that it's a commandment, thou shalt not, as opposed to being suggestions? So I'll put this into a situation that hopefully we'll understand. Some of you will understand it now, some of you will understand it later. Yeah. But we'll start off easy. You're driving, you break down in the middle of nowhere. You don't have a cell phone. You start walking, looking for a payphone, your luck, there's still a payphone. Yeah, you're walking till you find a payphone. Your parents are out of town. You call your best friend. And the phone's ringing and ringing, and finally he answers and goes, hello? He says, listen, it's me. What are you calling me in the middle of the night? I said, listen, I broke down. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't know how to get out of here. It's cold, it's raining. Could you come pick me up? So your friend says, it's cold, it's raining, the middle of the night. No, hangs up the phone. When you see the guy, what are you going to say? All right, well, I know what you're going to say, but after you get that off your chest, we talk about his parentage and stuff, fine. You can talk about all that. What are you going to say? You're not my friend. So what do you mean I'm not your friend? We go out, we have a couple of drinks, we go to see a movie. So, no, you weren't there for me. What are you, my grandmother? Going to give me a guilt trip? Where's it written? I have to come out in the middle of the night and pick you up. I don't have to. Now, if you decide to keep this relationship, you're going to seriously downgrade it because this guy's not really a friend because I can't count on him. Even though it may not have been written out, we understand. Relationships come with I have to's. If they're a low-level relationship, they come with very little have to's, right? You have a neighbor. Don't park in front of my driveway. Don't let your kids run around to my flowers. That's it. We pass each other by. Hi, Bob. Hi, Steve. That's it. That's all you need from that relationship. If it's a friendship, it becomes more. As the friendships move up, they become more and more intense until, Yetzer Hashem, you'll all get engaged, you'll all get married. Thank you very much. So that takes on a whole different level. Now, I was the Long Island director of NCSY when I got engaged. Thank you very much. And I got engaged. Now, I had no day, no night. There were times before a convention when I would sleep every other night. I would work day, night, day, and then I would sleep the next night, and then day, night, day, and work next. I had no day, I had no evening. It was impossible, So I had crazy hours. I was running around all kinds of things. My parents eventually gave up on me. It's a level, but you can reach it. Because I was living in LA. I had my own apartment. And I was working out there. And then I moved back into my old bedroom. And you never grow up, no matter what you think. I was in my 50s. I was a rabbi with children and grandchildren. My mother would say, that's a nice outfit, don't get it dirty. I said, Mom, I can dress myself. Mom! Anyway, but here I am living in my old bedroom, and my father gets up to go to the bathroom at 3 o'clock in the morning, sees the light on my room, he opens it, he sees me on the phone. Gives me the dad speech. What, are you crazy? You have to get up in the morning. What are you doing? I said, Dad, there's a girl on the phone. She wants to kill herself. Should I tell her to call me back in the morning? So now my father had no choice. He had to come to grips with the fact that I am now a responsible adult people depend on me. And he handled it with aplomb. And he said, I can't talk to him. Yeah, fine, he gave up on me. My mom, who like all Jewish mothers, sleeps like this. So I'd come in at 3 o'clock in the morning, she'd go, who is it? Axe murderer, Mom. I've come to kill everybody. All right, lock the door after you. After a while, my mom stopped listening for me. That was a madrega, No, it was me. So then I got engaged to a very nice lady who's still my wife. These many years later, 42 years. Thank you very much. One time she thanked me for the 38 best years of her life. I said, we're married 42. She says, the first 4. Anyway, but we got engaged, So I had one of these crazy nights where I was running here and I was running there, and I get back, it's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I throw myself down on the bed, and the phone starts to ring. All right, who's calling me at 3 o'clock in the morning? Some druggie who's about to go out and steal a car or something, It's like, I'm too tired, Now, the old days, when you had these phones that were like wired into the wall, they would ring for 15 times. Fine. It stops. 5 minutes later, 15 times. 5 minutes later, so I'm starting to get nervous. So I pick up the phone, and it's Simi, my colleague, I said, why are you calling me in the middle of the night? She said, where were you? I said, where was I? My mom doesn't even ask where was I. I had things to do. I had this meeting. She goes, don't you understand now you're engaged? Don't you understand now you're in a relationship? Don't you understand that comes with responsibilities? And I said, no, that never occurred to me because I'm a guy. Girls go through this terrible angst. I'm going to change my name. I'm going to get pregnant. I'm going to move in with this guy. What's going to happen to me in my life? And guys are like, you cook? Okay, I'll live here. It's like, Everyone knows this. Seinfeld once said, he goes, I bet you girls are wondering what we guys are thinking. Nothing. We're just walking down the street. We don't think nothing. So that's why every guy has to be trained, You have to call. Jackie Mason says, he says, I call my wife. I say, okay, I'm at the light. I'll call you when I get to the other side. I say, okay, I made it across the road. I'm going in for a bowl of soup. I'll call you and tell you if it's hot. Okay, the soup is hot. Now, I thought this was crazy, but I was in the supermarket, and you see these husbands with the cell phones. I'm passing the apples. I'm coming to the oranges. It's just like constant, because guys don't get it. That I sometimes, when I used to teach in the Yerushalayim, so I'd be invited to a vort, from the girl's side, but I'm sitting at the days with the boy, and the boy would be there, this chassan, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, one of those hats too big for his head, it's like sitting there, And I go, it's so wonderful getting married because marriage is forever and forever, and the sweat starts to drip down. Most guys think they're getting married for like 5 years with an option for renewal. You're married forever and ever. Gosh, that's why most people don't know this, but one of the worst mental things that Orthodox Jews suffer from is called fleshophobia, which is the fear of becoming fleshigs. You can watch this. I found German Jews suffer less, but in any event, it's like you come over and you say, oh, you want to taste this soup? And they're like, no. Then I'll be fleshig, Sometimes they start going like this. Yeah, okay, it's like, what time, what time is it going to be, It's a 6-hour commitment. 6 hours? Oh my gosh! Then you wonder why there's a singles problem in the Jewish community. 6-hour commitment bends people out of shape, but okay. But if there's a relationship, I have to. So listen to this story because you'll appreciate it. I'm talking to this guy, a young married fellow, and he goes, my wife is so unreasonable. Because I get up early in the morning, I take the train into Manhattan. I have to put in extra hours because, it's in this market, you have to put in extra time, I come home late at night. I want to just take a shower, have something to eat, and go to sleep. And my wife wants to talk to me. I said, wow, that's so inconsiderate. He goes, right? He says, what should I do? I said, you stick to your guns, and eventually she won't want to talk to you either. Now, he knew there was something wrong with that, but he couldn't figure out what, because ostensibly that's what he wants. He doesn't have any obligations. But deep down, people know that that's not true. You know, guy calls up and says, listen, honey, I'm not going to be home for supper. He goes, that's okay. No, I didn't want you to wait for me. She goes, I wasn't gonna. Oh, well, I might be home really late, so don't bother staying up. I wasn't gonna. I might not even be there when you wake up. I might be working through the whole night. He goes, listen, come home, don't come home, I don't really care. You know, if you come home, I'm happy to see you. If not, I'm just as happy. Most guys won't hang up the phone and say, gee, my wife, she's great. Figure she's having an affair, she doesn't love me anymore, she's leaving me. Why doesn't she expect me to be there? Yeah? Because we all understand that a relationship comes with obligations. That's why they're not suggestions, they're mitzvos, they're commandments. Thou shalt, because in marriage there are commandments. Everyone knows that. Thou shalt remember thy wife's birthday upon pain of death, right? So, now obviously, there's a very important aspect of mitzvahs, and that's what we're going to be talking about this year that we haven't really talked about in past years. But it's not just the action. It can't just be the action. And that's why you understand that, you know, a guy comes home with a dozen long stem roses all wrapped up, and his wife says, oh, they're for me? And he goes, I have to, right? It's your birthday. I forgot last year. I didn't hear the end of it for like weeks. You want me to put it in water? Or, you know what? I'll do the mitzvah mahadran. I'll put it in water. All right, am I done, or do I have to like talk to you? You know? No, that's fine. Okay, thanks. You know? Now, there's a general principle when it comes to gift giving, and you know this, I'm sure, those of you who have friends who are girls, not friends, but you know, friends who are girls that you probably grew up with in the neighborhood, and you feel an obligation to get them a gift on occasion or something, you know. So everyone knows this. Guys love practical gifts. You buy a guy a ladder, he loves it. He'll open it up, climb up to the roof, he's thrilled. Buy him a drill, he'll start making holes everywhere. Buy him a shawarma, he'll eat it right in front of you. He's very happy. You can't buy a girl a blender, even though it's very practical. You say, oh, look, I got you a whisk. You know, it's like, you know. Every mall has one store that's dedicated to stupid stuff that you buy for chicks. Everyone knows this. Little scented candles, little glass figurines. They don't serve any purpose whatsoever other than to express a sense of relationship. This doesn't work with guys. Hey, Bob, got you a little unicorn. Hey, thanks, I'll put it next to my scented candle. Yeah, no, zalohale. But for girls, it's the gift is expressing an emotion. It's showing that there's a sense of commitment and obligation. You know what I mean? And okay, you know, it's a different level. It's a different level of that kind of commitment. And so it can't just be commandments. You understand the purpose of the commandments are to build a relationship, right? That's why when somebody's really hurt you and you say, you didn't even say you're sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, we know how much that's worth. You know what I mean? No, it's not enough to do the mitzvah. The mitzvah, let's be perfectly clear on this. God is infinite. I know this is like a Emunah seminar in science. That means very big, okay? We'll put this into terms we can understand from a scientific point of view. Very, very big. You know what I'm saying? Infinite, you know? So he doesn't need anything. He's fine. People think like, God needs me to pray to him. No, he doesn't need you to pray to him. He has very high self-esteem. Don't worry about it. Wakes up in the morning, looks in the mirror, sees nothing. He's fine. You understand? He's all powerful. He can do anything he wants. He can always make some angels if he wants to hear some hymns. Put them away. He doesn't need nothing. Doesn't need you to pray to him. He doesn't need you to eat a matzah. He doesn't get a thrill out of hearing the crunch. You know what I mean? Oh, look, God, there's a Seder over here. Crunch, crunch. I love this time of year. Oh, there's another one. Crunch, crunch. He's fine. He's very emotionally secure. He doesn't get depressed to bring a flood and be in a good mood and send down the mun. He's fine. He's emotionally stable. You know? He feels good. He's fine. Yeah? The whole reason for doing the mitzvahs is because we want to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, like I said, we're going to take it a little step further because I usually develop this in the time that we have, and then people say, okay, what are the practical applications? So we don't always have time for the practical applications. So that's what I've been asked to focus on this year. But like I say, you could probably find, they usually put this up online, so you can find the the rest of this from past years. But suffice it to say at this point, and this is what the Mesilas Yesharim says, and it's a question that everybody probably thinks of at some point. God created the world. Why? As it says in Mesilas Yesharim, thank you very much. Anyway, why? To give us the greatest possible pleasure, which is being close to God. So everyone says, okay, put me in Olam Haba and hit me with the pleasure. Why do I have to come to this world and do mitzvahs? And he brings 3 answers to this, each one a little deeper. I'm going to focus now on the second one. The second one, as he says, is for this reason. And that is the dveikus v'Hashem, the pleasure is being close to God. That is the pleasure. It's not that life is a big ski bowl and you just keep rolling the little things and you collect tickets and in the end you get to Olam Haba and you cash them in. So if you're really good, like you could get a laptop, and if you weren't so good, you get one of those little soldiers with the parachute, and that's what you do for all of eternity, and it always gets twisted and the thing gets ripped, and that's like your Olam Haba. No, the Olam Haba is a relationship with Hashem. And therefore, just like every relationship comes with mitzvahs, the mitzvahs are how we build the relationship with God. If there weren't mitzvahs, then God's saying, I don't care if you talk to me or not. I don't care if I see you or hear from you or not. But if they're mitzvahs, that means I have expectations. I want to see you. I want to be involved. Even Goyim have 7 mitzvahs, not suggestions. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be involved and develop a relationship. The mitzvahs make the relationship. And that's why every relationship comes with commandments, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mitzvahs are there to build it. So, okay, that's the underlying principle. But how does it do it? So I'm going to go through a few mitzvahs. Like I say, I don't have time to go through all of them, but I'll go through a few of them just to give you an idea what we're talking about, how mitzvahs have a transformational effect. I want to tell you a story that some of you might be able to relate to, because it's a pretty scary story. And I heard it more than once. Guy says, he was in yeshiva. So I get up in the morning, I take my tefillin, I go to the Beis Medrash, I sit in the back room. I cannot put on my tefillin. I can't do it. The first time I heard this, I was surprised. When I heard it more than once, I said, okay, there's something underlying here. And then suddenly I realized what it is. Tefillin is something, if you think about it, that is very intimate. I am tying my connection to God onto my body. I put it on my head for my brain. I put it on my arm for my strength and actions. I point it to my heart for my emotions. And you know those psukim that you say as you tie it around your finger, astich, I'm marrying God. That means that putting on tefillin, whether we realize it on a conscious level or not, is something that is very intimate. And because, to be perfectly honest, a lot of people just don't like God. They just don't. You know? And again, we talked about this at length in a different class, but, you know, you ask people, how do you picture God? It's a big frowning face in the sky who says, I'm going to get you. And it's not their fault. That's unfortunately standard Jewish education. I always used to say when I would get students, I said, the first half of a year I have to undo your Jewish education and move you into things that are right. You know, people see God. One person said to me, I see God standing on a mountain with a lightning bolt. I said, that's Zeus. I said, you're not even up to monotheism yet. You know what I mean? You're on Mount Olympus. You know what I mean? You know, but I was having a bad time in yeshiva once. I was missing shir and stuff. My Rabbi wanted to cheer me up. Dovid, you got to get into it. I said, Rabbi, what's the point? I'm just going to go to hell anyway. He said, that's true. But he saw I was feeling bad. So he says, just focus on the following. At 350 degrees, you bake, but at 400, you burn. So that meant that if I davened 3 times a day and I learned, at the end, I would just bake. No, that wasn't working for me. And unfortunately, I heard this so much. So then I had to go through the Mesilas Yesharim, go through things of my own, and realize God doesn't want to burn me in hell. God created me because he wants to give me the greatest possible pleasure because he believes in me. I want to tell you this. You can appreciate this, I'm sure. I used to ask from people all the time. I say, you think God loves you? Nobody could tell me yes. But then, Baruch Hashem, the Kiruv movement came around. We all know the correct answer now. Yes, God loves me. So then I say, does God like you? That's much harder. And if they can answer that, I say, is God impressed with you? I can almost never find a frum Jew who says to me, yeah, God's impressed with you. Now, I want you to reflect on this just for a moment, because if everyone is honest with yourself, we've been in Gullus for 2,000 years. If you're a little bit of a student of Jewish history, you know that involves exile, pogroms, people taking away all of our money, terrible things that have been happening to us over all the centuries, and you're still here as a Jew. Most Jews have vanished throughout history. You are still here. And you're not only here as a Jew, you're here as a frum Jew. And you're not only here as a frum Jew, you're a frum Jew who came to Israel. Most Jews don't come and spend a year in Israel. And you've chosen a yeshiva. And not like a joke yeshiva, like a serious yeshiva. Where they demand of you. We have the schus of having Rabbi here, and we all know firsthand how, Rabbi will come to the Talmidim and make demands, And, there are guys who push themselves in ways that they never imagined, because that's what Nativ is based on. It's based on this principle of, I'm going to produce. And you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't look down at you based on where you've come from and what your generations have gone through, and doesn't look at you and all the malachim stand up and cheer every time they see you? That's the Yetzer Hara. Because God is extremely impressed with you. And there are few more impressive Jews in history than the people in this room right now. And that's why you should think about this very seriously. Rav Henoch Leibowitz, who was the Shiva of Chavetz Chaim, he says, we blow on Rosh Hashanah one last tekiah to confuse the Satan. He thinks it's the tekiah of Mashiach. He says, 2,000 years he's falling for the same trick. Let him buy a machzor. He'll know that we always blow one more blow at the end. He says, the Yetzer Hara is not stupid, we are. Because he knows how close we are right then to making that the shofar Mashiach. It's just we don't. Because if we knew how powerful we were, if we know what we could do, Ari Chet, who is the Shiva Chavetz Chaim in Eretz Yisrael, he says when he was a little boy, he went to the zoo and this lion roars and he got frightened. And I said to the zookeeper, can he break out of that cage? And he says, yeah, but don't worry, he doesn't know it. And he looked at us and he said, that's every one of you. You don't believe you can change the world. You don't believe that you can daven and heal the sick and find shidduchim for people who can't get married and give children to the childless and panosa to those who don't have money and bring Mashiach and save the lives of the soldiers who are fighting over there in Gaza. But that's just because the Satan tries to believe that you're not important. That's his biggest weapon. If you understood how HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at you, the people in this room, trust me, you've never taken 5 minutes out of your life to think of what an impressive individual you are, because if you did, you would Dovid, you'd give people brachas, you would change the world. But the Yetzer Hara keeps saying, you're nothing, you're a bum, you do this wrong, you do that, you know this, that. Because he's afraid of you, he's terrified of your potential. So, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at you. When we put on tefillin, what we're saying is, God and me are married. Har Sinai, there's like many chazal that compare it to a wedding. We married God. We're married to God. He loves us. He believes in us. He wants to build the Beis Hamikdash and make a home with us. It's a mind-blowing level of commitment and relationship, but we don't appreciate it. So when we put on tefillin, we're making a statement. The statement that we're making is, I'm married to God. God doesn't just like me. God loves me. That's what Shir Shirim is all about. Yeah? Baruch Hashem, our school has made the world safe. When I was a poor dumb Baal Tshuva, a teenager in the young Israel of North Belmore, and it was Shabbos Chol Moed, Pesach, and they were reading Shir Shirim, and we only had the Sansino, or the Burnbound, whatever it was, and it translates it literally. You know, and you're reading in shul, I grow drunk from your kisses, you know, and graphic descriptions of the girl and stuff, you know. So this, I was an FBT, the flaming Baal Tshuva, you know what I mean? You carry around a spear looking for someone to throw it at, you know? I was like, you know. So this guy says to me, hey kid, here's a good line, I bet a girl would fall for this. I said, sir, this is scripture, we're in synagogue, a little respect. And he says, yeah, but I can't believe they let this in the shul. Now, Baruch Hashem, Osco figured that out, and so they took it away, and now it's only a homiletic translation, not a literal one. It was closed for a while. Anyway, but the Chacham said the same thing. And Rabbi Akiva said, if all of the books are holy, this is the holy of holies. This is so important for us to know. Our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu is not merely a servant to a king. Anyone here from England? Oh, Baruch Hashem. A United Synagogue is one of the greatest experiences in the world because you go in there and it looks like a cathedral. And if you have one of those old-fashioned ones, people are still wearing top hats. And every time they speak, it echoes through the entire building. And there's like cobwebs and dust everywhere. And somebody gets up and says, you are in a house of the Lord, 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 Lord. Please maintain the decorum, quorum. You know? And you have this sense of like awe, yeah? And then it's like a child to a father, Tati, God is my Tati, he's going to help me, he's going to this. That's good. But the ultimate is me and God are two lovers in an embrace. Graphic. You'll forgive me if I get a little graphic just for a moment. Yeah, it says, Yoshio, they hid him in the Cheder Hamitos, in the bedroom. Says Rashi, that's the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It's where God and the Jewish people get together like a husband and a wife. How far is this taken? They took the two poles in the Aron, this week's parasha, right? And they stuck it into the paroches so it was bolate to mimic the female form. Yikes. The Gemara in Yuma says that Shlomo Melech decorated the Beis HaMikdash with pictures of couples embracing. Don't try that in your shul, even if it's very modern. It doesn't go over as much as it used to. But Shlomo Melech was saying, this is the ultimate relationship. That's what putting on tefillin is. And that's why I noticed that people, whether they realize it or not, if they have a problem with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, they just can't do it. It's a block for them because they don't believe that God loves them and believes in them, isn't impressed by them. Shabbos. Shabbos, there's lots of laws. We know this, yeah? Most people miss the forest for the trees. People spend so much time getting down all the laws, what you have to do, what you can't do, what you're supposed to do, that they miss the process. They miss what it's all about. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, for 24 hours, there's a wave of Kedusha that fills the world. And you have to tap into it, but you don't know how. I'll give you an example. There's beautiful music playing in this room right now, right? If you hear it, you really need to see a professional or get off of that medication. Yeah, that's just my own advice. But most people say, I don't hear any music. Of course, because they're radio waves. You need a radio. You get the radio, you turn it on, I only hear static, of course, because you don't have a tuner. And now you have to tune in, and now you can hear the music. There's two more things you have to do. You have to listen. Because if I turn on the radio and I leave the room, I'm not going to hear it. And the next thing is you might need a course in music appreciation. Because people who grew up with hip-hop don't even know what music is. So you have to learn how to appreciate music. Yeah? And that's why classical music, where you can convey so many different things with music, it's such a powerful thing to listen to it. You know, listen to the 1812 overture, and you can hear the cannons, and you can hear the battle, you hear the William Tell overture, and you hear the horse beats, and you hear the horses rushing. You can hear it, the power of what music can do. So the world's filled with Kedusha. We don't hear it. Why? Because we're so busy. We're on our phones, we're on our computers, we're on our devices. Things are beeping, things are going. There's no stop. It's relentless. So we say, okay, turn it all off. Turn off everything. Yeah. This, by the way, is grueling because they did a study 10 years ago when it wasn't as bad as it is today. 1,000 college students, not Jewish, around the world, and they took them off of all of their technology, and they suffered the same withdrawal symptoms as people coming off of crack and heroin, because people are addicted to their devices. That's why there was an article in the Jewish Week about people who keep half Shabbos. They keep Shabbos, but they still have to use their phone or whatever it is. They just can't. They're addicted, So turn off everything. Don't cook. Don't go shopping. Don't do anything. Close everything off. And now listen. Learn how to hear Shabbos. Learn how to appreciate Shabbos. That's the mitzvah aseh. Unfortunately, people just focus on the low asehs. They don't know how to make Shabbos something that's enjoyable and something that's beautiful and something that's wonderful. But all of the mitzvahs of Shabbos are designed for only one thing, to block out the static and for me to be able to hear the music. And of course, a person who never learns how to appreciate it, well, of course they're not going to enjoy Shabbos. Tefillah. Let me talk for a minute about tefillah. I'm running out of time. Also, this year has to end soon. Both are true. But anyway, so somebody said to me, at my age, if you wake up in the morning and nothing hurts, you're dead. But anyway, the Gemara in Brachos says something that is just mind-boggling, if you stop and think about it. The Hasidim Rishonim, they only had Shemona Esrei. They spent, and Shemona Esrei is what they called tefillah. They spent an hour before tefillah preparing for tefillah, an hour saying Shemona Esrei, and an hour coming down from the experience. You understand what that means? That means they so lifted themselves up out of this world into a state of spiritual awareness, it took them a whole hour to come back down into this world. Now, that doesn't happen to us because we have no idea what we're saying. Someone says to me, I have an art scroll. I said, good. I said, used to be you didn't know what you were saying in Hebrew. Now you don't know what you're saying in English. You understand? Because in Hebrew you go, lahodos, lahalel, l'shabech, l'fe'el, l'ramem, lahadel, l'reich, l'kales, which means nothing to me. So I look in the English and I say, you are praiseworthy, you are exalted, extolled, very exalted, extremely extolled, very praiseworthy, It's like someone opened up a thesaurus and just copied out a list of words. That has no more meaning to me. I don't know what the difference is between lahodos, lahalel, l'shabeach. Each one of these things is an idea, and I say things and I don't know what they mean. They don't have any meaning to me. So of course, if I'm going to daven, I don't know what I'm saying, it's not going to have a meaningful experience to me. I have to figure out not what the words mean, but what the concepts mean. I always bring one example. I just got a letter from a guy who said he heard me give this shir 25 years ago, and he now teaches in Yeshiva of Spring Valley, 8th grade and 4th grade, and he teaches this over to his class, and he sent me a picture with their list. He says, now I have ADD, right? I have dyslexia, I have ADD, I have focusing problems. Every learning disability known to man, they gave it to me. So, God, I'm the genetic garbage can of generations. But anyway, and it's tough, especially when you go into education, I had a kid in my class who also had ADD. He was like, how many kids with ADD does it take to change a light bulb? I said, how many? He says, want to ride my bike? And we both went. Anyway, I've been talking about this for years, and one guy who's a Rosh Kollel, he says to me, be thankful, I have ADHD. He says, the ADD kids, they just put in the back of the class, and you guys just sat there going, he says, but we were the ones bouncing off the walls. We were the ones who got beaten. Thank God you had only ADD. And I said, what? So anyway, So somebody pointed out to me this fits in better into modim, and they're right. But I'm already spaced out by that point, you know. So that's why Rosh Shadran said. That's why in Slach Lanu you bang your chest 2 times so that you remember you're still davening. Because otherwise you're already shopping at Machne Yehuda and you go, hey, who hit me in the chest? Oh, no, you know. Anyway, so when I come to the words Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol, which of course is translated as he bestows loving kindness and is master of all, means absolutely nothing. So I started doing something maybe 20 years ago. Gomel Chasadim Tovim, like what? And I think of something good in my life. And then I say V'Konei Hakol, and it comes from God. You do that 3 times a day, 365 days a year, for 3 years, it changes your life. Because you ever hear people say this all the time, they say, why does God do so many bad things to me? I said, he doesn't. He does so many good things to you, but you take credit for that. So if you almost get into an accident and you don't, you say, well, I'm such a great driver. And the one time you get into an accident, you say, God, why weren't you there for me? So you don't give me credit when things go right. You can't blame me when things go wrong. So when you start looking at all the stuff that's going right in your life, suddenly you realize, my gosh, I have a truly blessed existence. Things are great. And you have to do that with every single tefillah, with every phrase in tefillah. And it takes time until you can figure out that what I'm saying has meaning to me. And so God gives me his full attention. We don't believe it, right? I said, but you can imagine, you go, Baruch Atah Hash. Oh my God, I mean, that's you. Who'd you think you were diving to? Nobody. Go ahead, talk. Elokei Avraham. Loved Avraham. You know, I love that guy. I know you wrote it, yeah. Elokei Yitzchak. You know, Yitzchak was willing to, I know the story. Elokei, okay, look, I'm being freaked out over here. I can't believe I'm talking to God, but we do that 3 times a day. Rabbi Fran tells an unbelievable story. He was going to speak in Skver, and part of it is he was going to have a meeting with the Skver rabbi. He was going to give him a kvittel, you know, ask him for a bracha. And he was talking to his kids and to his wife and to his family. What should I ask the Skver rabbi for? And then I said, idiot. I talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu 3 times a day. I could ask him for anything I want, but I don't take it seriously. I saw a great bumper sticker. It says, before you tell God how big your problems are, tell your problems how big God is. You know what I mean? And when you start looking for it, people start noticing that, oh my gosh, you know, you have a lot of siyata d'shmaya. When something happens, they go, wow, that's amazing. I said, nah, God does stuff like that for me all the time. And he does. But he does it for you too, but you miss it. So when we daven and we think to ourselves, wow, God is giving me his attention 3 times. You know what that is? Chris Farley. He was on Saturday Night Live. He died. Anyway, overdose. But he had this skit where he was interviewing Paul McCartney. And it was just brilliant. He's going, oh my gosh, you're Paul McCartney. He goes, that's right. You're a Beatle. He goes, right. Oh gosh, I'm talking to Paul McCartney. He goes, yeah. And that was the whole interview. He was just so awestruck, he couldn't say anything, you know? People are watching the Super Bowl to see Taylor Swift. There's like something seriously wrong with the world in which we live. You understand? But it's like, oh, football must be cool. Taylor Swift is going. You idiot. What could possibly be wrong with somebody? Taylor Swift is in her 30s and she's still singing like a 16-year-old. I broke up with my boyfriend. He was like, oh, come on already. Grow up, you idiot. But anyway, that's just me. Okay, forget it. But anyhow, but you know, you have a chance to be with, to meet with Taylor Swift. You have a chance to talk to this one. You know, wow. People are like, wow. You know, but here's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he says, go ahead, tell me what you want. What can I do for you? I don't know about anybody else here. I don't have that many infinite friends. And when I got one, I'm going to work on that relationship because he can do anything, like at all. And he has pulled me out of so many messes, and what I have found is that the more that I just give myself over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I find that I get the most amazing results. But most people lock him out. Trust me, he's a great resource. So when we have a mitzvah to daven, davening has this ability to be able to, this is what, I think it's the shlah, I think. But in Shema Kolenu, he says, there's a lot of double lashon in Shema Kolenu, because what we're saying is, at the end of the day, we're davening because you told us to daven. Besides the fact that we need everything, and we want to be close to you, and we get all this stuff, and all the things that go with it. Yeah? Everything that we have, every mitzvah, tzitzis, yeah? You ever think about that? It's very strange. Tzitzis is arba kanfos. It only applies to a four-cornered beged. Why? Because this world is described as four corners. Of course, it's round, right? The Yerushalmi says that. We knew that it was round, but we perceive it as being flat. And so in this world, you see a flat land, that's as far as it goes. And the tzitzis, which is 8 is always outside of this world because the world was made in 7 days. 8, it goes beyond. Every corner goes beyond. You can extend beyond. When you put on your tzitzis, it means you have the potential to move out of this world. Of course, most people don't know that. It's like, I got to put on my tzitzis. So every single mitzvah, like I said, I wish I had more time, but every single mitzvah, if you stop and look at it, you'll realize how it's something that's relevant to my life. We don't eat milk and meat. Why? Because milk is something that an animal produces to sustain life, and meat is dead flesh. We don't mix death and life because we have a lot of respect for life. And when we do that, it gives us more sensitivity and we take life more seriously. There's so many examples like this. Every single mitzvah, you can look at it on that level. Unfortunately, that was all I had the time to be able to do with the time that we have available. Yes?
Hi. I believe the Rabbi said that you need to have confidence in yourself and do the greatest for yourself, so how do we balance that with gaiva?
Oh, don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. There is no gaiva today. And let me explain to you the difference. There's 2 words in English which are very fine. One is an egotist, and one is an egoist. An egotist is about gaiva. Now, very hard to find about gaiva today. Very, very hard. An egoist is someone who's the small child who's hopping up and down saying, Mommy, look at me. Mommy, look at me. Mommy, 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 you're not looking at me. Yeah? So there are certain people who we think are Bali Gaiva and they're not. They're just dying for attention. And if you scratch the surface, they collapse. A Bali Gaiva doesn't collapse. A Bali Gaiva doesn't care if you recognize them. He's so much more superior to everybody. Hard to find today. Most people, it's just surface. Trust me, I'd much rather you err on that side than the other side. That's the Yetzer Hara talking. All right, so my friends, so we have only had an opportunity to scratch the surface. Before, one second, just before we end with thunderous applause, I just wanted to say, I have no pride. See, as an example. Anyway, I just wanted to say that, every mitzvah is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a different way. We're trying to make a relation with somebody who's infinite, and that's not so easy. And every mitzvah helps us connect in a different way. And when we put them all together, just remember, there are 613 mitzvahs. Add them up, 613 comes to 10. Add up those digits, it comes to 1. Everything is one thing, to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why at the beginning of the Aseret Dibros, it says, first HaKadosh Baruch Hu said all the Aseret Dibros in one moment, what a person can't hear and a person can't say. What's the matter? Kriyas Yamsuf wasn't impressive enough? The Eser Makos? Watch how fast I can talk? How about that, Now you're impressed. No, it's because everything that we do has only one purpose, to bring us closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and build that relationship. Thank you very much.